What if proof of aliens has been here the whole time, washed up on beaches, found in caves, or caught on hidden cameras? Let's check them out. Deep in a dusty attic in Mexico, a strange skull was found that would spark decades of mystery, theories, and headlines. It didn't look human, at least not entirely. The skull had a cranial volume far beyond the range of any known human. The eye sockets were shallow and oddly shaped. The back of the skull curved in a way that defied natural bone structure, and there were no sinus cavities. Some claimed it was a deformed child. Others were sure it was something far more otherworldly. They called it the Star Child skull. What made it stand out wasn't just its shape, it was how the bone itself was structured. It was abnormally thin, yet incredibly strong. Researchers noted fibers inside the bone matrix, something never seen in human or animal bones before. And then, there was the DNA. Some experts said the DNA was too degraded. Others believed it was because it didn't originate from Earth. Over the years, the Star Child skull became a cornerstone of ancient alien theories. Some researchers pointed out that the skull's cranial volume was 1,600 cubic centimeters, over 200 more than the average adult. That would suggest a brain too large for any normal human. Could it belong to a hybrid being? A mix between a human and something extraterrestrial? Critics, of course, rushed to label it a mutation, a developmental disorder, or even a hoax. But none of them could fully explain all the anomalies in one neat conclusion. Today the skull still exists, stored away, but not forgotten. It's one of those rare artifacts that defies easy answers. Not religious, not cultural, not purely scientific, just mysterious. Some say it proves we've been visited. Others believe it hints at a species lost to time. But one thing is certain, it doesn't look like anything we're used to seeing on this planet. In a remote part of Utah lies Skinwalker Ranch, ground zero for some of the strangest sightings ever recorded in the United States. For decades, this patch of land has been crawling with high strangeness. We're talking glowing-eyed humanoids, tall black figures that walk upright like humans but vanish into thin air, and creatures that look like wolves but don't react to bullets or pain. And here's the kicker. Some of it has been caught on infrared cameras monitored by former government contractors and logged in official reports. These aren't just stories, they're documented encounters with beings that don't follow any known rules of biology. Eyewitnesses claim the creatures appear out of thin air, step through portals, or glow under thermal imaging while everything around them stays cold. The property was once under surveillance by a Pentagon-funded project investigating non-human entities. That's not conspiracy, that's declassified. Are these cryptids? Or are we looking at something else entirely? Something not from this world or maybe even this dimension? You'd expect something like this in folklore, but the Fiji Mermaid actually existed and was exhibited. It wasn't just bones and wire, it had texture, skin, muscle structure. This disturbing hybrid had the torso of a small primate fused seamlessly with the tail of a fish. It was displayed publicly in the 1800s and people paid to see what they thought was a myth made real. Scientists finally examined it, expecting a hoax but left with more questions. The seams were too clean, the anatomy almost functional. How did two unrelated species get combined in such a way? And why were similar specimens popping up in other countries, under different names? Some researchers suggested it wasn't a hoax but rather a preserved unknown species from the deep. What if these things weren't man-made but discovered? Creatures that live in ocean trenches we've never explored, dragged up accidentally and sold as sideshow monsters? It's not just creepy, it hints at a hidden biology we've never classified. It's only 6 inches tall, but this tiny skeleton from Chile's Atacama Desert is one of the most unsettling discoveries ever made. At first glance it looks fake, a toy maybe, but under X-rays and scans it's real bone, with a skull structure far beyond anything human. It has 10 ribs instead of 12. Its head is shaped like a triangle and its eye sockets are huge. Scientists confirmed it was once alive. The body had lungs, bones, and tissue like any organism. DNA tests revealed some human markers, but also mutations so extreme they couldn't be explained by any known disorder. Researchers tried to play it safe, calling it a child with bone disease. But the skeleton shows signs of someone who lived 6 to 8 years, not a newborn. That alone shattered expectations. So what is it? A mutant, a hybrid, or something older, something that walked here once and left its remains behind? Some locals say it came from the sky. That part can't be proven. But what can be proven is that this being once lived, and it still doesn't fit into any known branch of the human family tree. In the 1880s, in a burial mound near Sayre, Pennsylvania, A group of scientists reportedly uncovered something they weren't prepared for. Human skeletons over 7 feet tall, with bony protrusions above the brows that looked exactly like horns. At first it sounded like a tall tale, but these weren't just rumors. Early photographs of the skulls existed, and local newspapers at the time covered the find. The bones were shipped to a museum in Philadelphia, and then vanished without a trace. No official follow-up, no study, nothing. The story went quiet, but the mystery only grew louder. Anatomically, there is no known human population with such characteristics. Horned skulls don't fit into the fossil record, and yet multiple researchers claimed they held them in their hands. Some speculate these beings were ritual leaders or an unknown race wiped out by early settlers. Others believe they weren't human at all. Whatever they were, the evidence didn't disappear on its own. Something, or someone, made sure it was never studied again. This one doesn't just live in legend, it was caught, photographed, and examined. In 2007, a strange creature was reportedly trapped alive on a farm in Metepec, Mexico. It had a humanoid shape, hairless skin, massive black eyes, and thin limbs with clawed fingers. It was small, but the level of detail in its structure left scientists baffled. Unlike most cases, this creature was preserved and subjected to lab analysis. X-rays revealed a complex skeleton, with internal organs and bone density that didn't match any known animal. DNA samples were taken, but the results were confusing. Some strands matched known species, but others didn't match anything at all. The story got stranger when the man who allegedly captured the creature died soon after in a suspicious fire. Some said it was coincidence. Others believe the incident was silenced. But the photos remain, clear, detailed, and unsettling. If this wasn't from Earth, it means something else is walking among us. Or at least crashing down now and then, leaving traces we're not supposed to find. Deep beneath the surface of Malta lies the Hal Saflieni Hepigum, an ancient underground temple carved directly into limestone over 5,000 years ago. But what makes this place legendary isn't just the architecture, it's what was found inside. During excavations in the early 1900s, researchers uncovered a set of skulls with bizarre features: elongated craniums, massive eye sockets, and abnormally shaped jaws. At least 7 of them were so different from the human norm that scientists questioned whether they could even be classified as Homo sapiens. Photos of the skulls still exist, and a few were once displayed in the National Museum of Archaeology in Valletta, until they were quietly removed without explanation. What's more, the Hepigum is known for its oracle chamber, where certain frequencies create strange auditory effects. Some claim the chamber was designed to alter human consciousness, or communicate with something else. Could these elongated skulls be from a lost human species? Or were they visitors, honored and buried beneath the earth in one of history's oldest temples? In the early 1950s, an unknown creature washed up on the shores of Canvey Island, off the coast of England. It didn't take long before officials realized this wasn't your average marine animal. The creature had reddish, leathery skin, protruding eyes, and 2 thick legs with hoof-like feet. No fins, no gills. And unlike most sea creatures, it had lungs. Another body showed up in 1954, looking almost identical, yet no known sea species matched the anatomy. British authorities documented the incident and took photographs, but no formal explanation ever followed. The remains were reportedly sent for analysis, and then, nothing. Theories started swirling. Some said it was a mutated anglerfish, others thought it was a secret military experiment gone wrong. But the real question is, what was it doing on land? A sea creature with legs and hooves built to walk instead of swim. If it wasn't a hoax, and nothing credible ever proved it was, then we're left with a chilling possibility. Some of the things that live in the ocean weren't made to stay there forever. In April 1977, the Japanese fishing trawler Zuio Maru was cruising near New Zealand when its nets pulled up something truly bizarre. A massive, rotting creature that shocked the entire crew. It measured over 30 feet long, had 4 large paddle-like fins, a lengthy neck over 5 feet, and a small, oddly shaped head. The carcass didn't resemble any known fish, mammal, or shark. In fact, it looked disturbingly similar to a plesiosaur, an aquatic reptile believed to have gone extinct around 65 million years ago. The crew took multiple high-resolution photographs, sketches, and even samples of the tissue before releasing the stinking mass back into the ocean to save their catch from contamination. When the photos reached Japan, the media exploded with headlines like "New Dinosaur Found" and "Sea Monster Discovered." Scientists from Tokyo and Yokohama universities examined the tissue samples and found unusual collagen fibers that didn't match common marine life. Some skeptics argued it was a basking shark in decay, but that explanation failed to account for the long neck and lack of dorsal fin. Others noted that basking sharks don't have vertebral structures matching what the crew described. This wasn't just a curiosity, it was physical evidence of something unknown, something ancient. If this creature wasn't from the fossil record, then it might be part of a living one, a real sea dragon briefly brought to light, then lost back to the depths. In April 1977, a series of late-night sightings in the quiet town of Dover, Massachusetts, launched one of the strangest creature reports in American history. Over a span of just 2 days, multiple teenagers claimed to have seen a pale, hairless humanoid crawling along stone walls and wooded roadsides. Its skin was described as peach-colored and rubbery, with a bulbous, oversized head and enormous, glowing orange eyes. The creature was only about 3 to 4 feet tall, with spindly limbs and no visible ears, nose, or mouth. What made these accounts different from typical urban legends was how consistent the witnesses were. None of them knew each other, yet their descriptions matched perfectly. Police took the reports seriously enough to document them, and the original eyewitness sketches still exist today. Experts have ruled out animals like foals, monkeys, or escaped pets. The creature didn't move like anything native to New England. It wasn't aggressive, just eerily out of place, like it had wandered into the wrong reality. Paranormal researchers have connected the Dover demon to potential extraterrestrial visitations, pointing to its striking resemblance to the classic gray alien often reported in abduction accounts. If that's true, then what was it doing in the woods of Massachusetts that spring night? Some suggest a scouting entity, others think it was an accidental slip between dimensions. Whatever it was, the Dover demon appeared, was seen by credible witnesses, and then vanished, leaving behind only questions and a few chilling sketches. A few years ago, wildlife researchers set up motion-activated cameras deep in Germany's forest. They expected deer or wild boar. What they caught was something else. One photo, snapped just after 2 a.m., showed several pale, hairless humanoids with huge black eyes and thin, bony bodies. They stood upright in a clearing, facing the camera, almost as if they knew they were being watched. Locals called them the Watchers. Some said they looked amphibious, others swore they matched creatures seen in deep-sea sub-footage. The full footage vanished. Only a few leaked frames remain, and the team who captured them never returned. Since then, strange noises echo through the forest at night, like footsteps, from something that isn't supposed to be there. In the late 1960s, a mysterious frozen body began touring across the United States in a carnival-style trailer exhibit. Encased in a block of ice and labeled as the Minnesota Iceman, the figure appeared to be a hairy, humanoid creature with a smashed face, one bulging eye and broken limbs frozen mid-motion. It was about 6 feet long, heavily built, and looked disturbingly real. Visitors were stunned. Some thought it was a model, but others, especially scientists who saw it up close, weren't so sure. Prominent cryptozoologists examined it in detail and publicly claimed it was a genuine biological specimen. They believed it was a new species, perhaps a relic hominid, possibly shot and preserved. The strange part? After attention grew, the exhibit was suddenly pulled, and a replacement was brought in. This one clearly a replica. The original was never seen again. No samples, no trace, just photos and eyewitness accounts. Some claimed the government got involved, others believe it was quietly bought and hidden by a private collector. The story sounds like fiction, but there are real photographs, real testimonies, and professional scientists who went on record saying what they saw was alive once. The Iceman wasn't just a sideshow. It might have been our only glimpse at a living fossil, frozen in time and pulled back behind the curtain before the world could find out what it truly was. During the Vietnam War, American soldiers reported more than just enemies in the dense jungle. In the remote highlands, troops claimed they encountered upright, hairy, human-like beings watching them from the trees. Locals already had a name for these creatures, the Batut, described as around 5 to 6 feet tall, covered in reddish or dark hair, and walking on 2 legs. The Batut had no known match in the region's animal kingdom. They left behind footprints with a clearly defined arch, and some patrol units even claimed to have exchanged rocks or hostile gestures with them, encounters that were logged in field reports but never made public. Later expeditions by Vietnamese scientists recorded similar sightings, with some going so far as to say they observed the creatures from a distance. The Batut were never captured, but they left behind broken branches, strange nests and audio recordings of calls that didn't match known wildlife. Cryptozoologists believe the Batut could be a surviving relic hominid, something between ape and early man. If real, it would rewrite the timeline of human evolution in Southeast Asia. Whether it's a living fossil, a regional offshoot, or something even more unique, the Batut is a chilling reminder that even now, there are beings in the forest we can't explain, and possibly were never meant to find. In 2006, something monstrous washed ashore on Sakhalin Island in eastern Russia. It didn't look like any known sea creature, at least not one we've ever classified. The massive, decaying mass had grayish flesh, what looked like thick hair or fur, a long skeletal structure, and a face that was almost humanoid. Locals first thought it was a whale carcass until scientists got involved and ruled that out. It didn't match any known marine mammal, fish, or reptile. The body was so large and unidentifiable that it sparked panic across social media, with people calling it a sea monster, a failed experiment, or something that shouldn't exist. Samples were reportedly taken, but no official results were released. The carcass eventually disappeared. No one knows whether it was destroyed, buried, or quietly taken away. Marine biologists offered theories ranging from decomposed basking sharks to beached squid, but none of them matched the size, hair, or facial structure shown in the photos. What's disturbing is how often these globsters, massive, unknown marine creatures, wash up and vanish, with no follow-up. The Sakhalin carcass might have been something from Earth's distant past, or something still swimming in the deep, far from where we ever dare to look. For over 250 years, people have reported seeing a strange winged creature lurking in the pine barrens of New Jersey. With glowing red eyes, leathery wings, a long neck, and a scream that sends chills down the spine, the Jersey Devil has become part of local folklore. But something changed in the 2000s. People started claiming they had photographic evidence. Trail cams set up to monitor deer and coyotes began picking up unexplained shapes in the night. One frame showed a tall, bird-like figure with clawed feet and outstretched wings, standing upright in the middle of a forest clearing. Another showed what looked like a large airborne creature with a tail and elongated limbs. Experts tried to brush off the images as owls or digital glitches. But the detail in some of the photos went beyond shadows and coincidences. A few were even released to the public, drawing comparisons to century-old illustrations of the creature. Could the Jersey Devil be more than legend, an unknown species hiding in plain sight, only stepping out under cover of darkness? If real, it wouldn't just be a strange animal, it would mean something completely unrecorded by science is out there, flying just past our understanding, and maybe watching from the trees right now. In 2009, a group of teenagers exploring near a cave in Sero Azul, Panama, stumbled upon something that looked like it came straight out of science fiction. At first, they thought it was a hairless animal. Then it moved. The creature crawled toward them on all fours, its pale, rubbery skin glistening, limbs too long for its body and no fur, claws, or tail, nothing familiar. Panicked, they reportedly threw rocks and fled, later returning to find it lifeless. Photos of the body quickly went viral. It didn't match any known species, not a sloth, monkey, or anything native to Panama. What stood out was the humanoid shape. Its limbs were thin and jointed like ours. Its face was flat, with a recessed nose and a strange mouth, almost human but not quite. Biologists examined the photos and offered theories, maybe a diseased animal, or a decomposing sloth. But none of the explanations matched the creature's features. Its skin was intact. Its structure was wrong. To this day, no official answer has been confirmed. The story faded, but the photos remain, clear, unedited, and deeply unsettling. Whether it was a genetic anomaly, an unknown species, or something even stranger, the Sero Azul humanoid was seen, photographed, and then gone, like it was never supposed to be found. In 1960, the coast of Tasmania played host to something truly bizarre. A massive, blubbery carcass washed ashore, around 20 feet long, featureless at first glance, until they noticed the strange, hair-like fibers covering its body, and a row of jagged, uneven teeth inside what looked like a beak-shaped mouth. It wasn't a whale or anything remotely close. Locals dubbed it a globster, a term used for massive, unidentifiable organic matter that occasionally appears on shores worldwide. But this one was different. It had bones. It had muscle tissue. It had teeth. Scientists at the time examined the creature but couldn't reach a clear conclusion. The flesh didn't match any known marine animal. Some said it resembled an undiscovered type of sea mammal or an ancient predator we believed extinct, and then it vanished. The remains were removed, and like many globsters before and after it, the Tasmanian creature faded into mystery. But the photos survive, grainy but detailed enough to raise questions science still can't answer. If it wasn't a hoax, then something massive and carnivorous may still be hiding in the southern oceans, surfacing only when it's already too late to study. In the deep jungles of Papua New Guinea, villagers have passed down stories of a flying creature they call the ropen. Described as a large leathery-winged animal with a long tail and a bioluminescent glow, it's been part of tribal lore for generations. But in recent decades, those stories have been backed up by real sightings, by locals and foreign researchers alike. Some explorers claim to have seen the creature soaring over the treetops at night, its wingspan estimated at over 15 feet. Others captured glowing orbs in the sky, moving in patterns no bird or bat could mimic. The ropen is often described as looking like a living pterosaur, an ancient flying reptile thought to have died out millions of years ago. But sightings have continued, especially around Mount Bell, Umboy Island, and surrounding regions. In one case, a missionary captured a blurred photo of a massive winged form above the tree line. Locals say the creature eats fish, sometimes livestock, and nests in cliffs no human dares to climb. Some believe the ropen is a leftover species from the age of dinosaurs. Others think it's something more advanced, possibly not even native to Earth. Whatever it is, the ropen refuses to be written off as myth. It's been seen, followed, and feared, and it may still be circling above just out of reach. In 2008, a strange, bloated creature washed up on the beach in Montauk, New York, and set the internet on fire. It had a beak-like snout, exposed teeth, and leathery skin. No fur, no feathers, just something that didn't fit. Experts guessed raccoon, dog, or sea turtle, none of which matched the creature's full anatomy. Then without warning, the body vanished. No lab analysis, no official follow-up, just blurry photos and endless theories. Was it a mutated test subject from the nearby Plum Island Research Facility? A sea creature we've never cataloged? Or something not from here at all? No one ever proved what it was. For the first time in 50 years, the words non-human biologics echoed inside the US Congress, and they didn't come from a movie script. In 2023, the US Congress officially held a hearing where the existence of aliens wasn't just hinted at, it was spoken outright. Under oath, former intelligence officer David Grush stated that the US government has retrieved non-human biologics from crash sites. Not theories, not speculation. Biologics, bodies. He didn't flinch when questioned, and the room didn't laugh. What made this hearing even more explosive was what followed just weeks later. Two strange, mummified bodies were displayed in front of Mexican Congress. Small, brittle, and undeniably odd, the figures had 3 fingers on each hand, long limbs, and oversized skulls. X-rays showed eggs inside one of them. They looked like what the world calls aliens. Scientists were split, some called them hoaxes, others pointed to carbon dating, which placed them at over 1,000 years old. The timing? Too perfect to ignore. One government after another suddenly lifting the curtain. Together, the testimony in Washington and the mummies in Mexico painted a chilling picture. Maybe the truth was never out there. It's been here all along. Hidden in vaults, examined in labs, and now slowly entering public view. And the biggest question remains, why now? Why reveal all this now after decades of silence? In the early 2000s, a man hiking in the Rhodope Mountains of Bulgaria stumbled across a skull like nothing he'd ever seen. It had 6 cavities, no mouth, and was far smaller and lighter than any known human or animal. The eyes, huge and round, dominating most of the face, local archaeologists couldn't identify it. No creature in their records came close. Some suggested it might belong to an undiscovered species or even an ancient deformity, but others quietly entertained another possibility. That it wasn't from Earth at all. What fueled the mystery even more was what was found with it. A small metallic object, shaped like a disc. No one could explain its purpose. The skull was eventually taken for further research and then vanished. It hasn't been seen since. Some say it was hidden, others think it was stolen. To this day, scientists argue about whether the skull was organic, synthetic, or something in between. And if it really came from space, then why was it buried deep in an ancient mountain range thousands of miles from any known crash site? Thousands of miles away in Utah's desert, stories of otherworldly visitors are carved directly into stone. The petroglyphs of Sego Canyon go back at least 8,000 years, And they show something deeply unsettling. Tall, thin beings with no arms, giant eyes, and heads far too large for their bodies. Some have antenna-like projections, others seem to float. Local tribes never claim to have made them. In fact, many Native American oral traditions speak of sky people or star beings that came from above. The match is chilling. What's strange is that these carvings aren't isolated. Similar figures appear all across the American Southwest and beyond. In caves, on cliffs, in places people weren't supposed to live. They didn't hunt these figures and they didn't worship them. It's as if they were trying to record something they'd seen. The Sego Canyon petroglyphs have been studied for years, and no one has been able to explain them away as ordinary humans or animals. When the drawings are this old, this consistent, and this alien-looking, it's hard not to ask, who were they really trying to show us? In the hills of Jalisco, Mexico, farmers and diggers began unearthing hundreds of clay artifacts that defied every rule of ancient art. These weren't typical statues of gods, animals, or humans. They looked like something else entirely. Long-limbed, bug-eyed creatures holding tools, standing next to craft-like objects, or interacting with human figures. Many of the artifacts show what appears to be space helmets, control panels, even surgeries. Some figurines are so detailed, they show large heads with almond-shaped eyes and fingers longer than any humans. They've been dubbed the Jalisco aliens, and while mainstream archaeologists often avoid them, the collection has grown too large to ignore. The figurines were dated to over 1,000 years ago, long before electricity, aviation, or even telescopes. Yet they feature beings that look strikingly like modern interpretations of extraterrestrials. The question is, how could a civilization with no concept of outer space imagine these figures so precisely? Skeptics say they're fakes, but the sheer volume and consistency raise doubts. They weren't sold to tourists. They were buried deep, found far from trade routes, and often alongside standard relics. Were these just myths shaped in clay? Or did these ancient people actually witness something that left them trying to recreate what they saw with their own hands? Deep in a Peruvian cave near Cusco, researchers stumbled upon something that looked like it came from a science fiction set, a severed, mummified hand with only 3 fingers. But these weren't just any fingers. They were long, bony, and far thicker than a human's, with strange joint structures and cartilage patterns not found in known species. Alongside the hand were elongated skull fragments and an oddly shaped skull cap. Local legends had always spoken of sky visitors who walked differently and didn't look human. This find seemed to echo those stories. When X-rays of the hand were made public, things got weirder. The bones were real. The tissue was real. It wasn't plastic or molded clay. It had veins and joint sockets. Some independent labs even dated it back over 1,000 years. But the anatomy didn't match humans, monkeys, or any known animal from the region. Some researchers claimed it belonged to an unknown primate. Others refused to speculate. Despite the mystery, the specimen was quietly taken into private hands for further study and has rarely been seen since. It raises a disturbing possibility. What if this isn't the only one? What if ancient Peruvians really did have contact with beings whose biology was close, but not quite human? In the ruins of Palenque, Mexico, inside the tomb of the ancient Mayan king Pakal, lies one of the most controversial carvings ever found. On the stone sarcophagus lid is a detailed scene that, to many, looks nothing like a religious or ceremonial image. It looks like someone piloting a machine. Pakal is shown lying back, his hands working controls, his feet pressing against pedals, surrounded by strange objects that resemble tubing, fire, and even exhaust. Some say it looks like he's strapped into a rocket. Mainstream archaeologists insist it's symbolic, a depiction of the king descending into the underworld. But even decades later, no one has fully decoded every symbol carved into the panel. The shape of the structure, the positioning of the body, and the presence of what appear to be mechanical parts don't help the conventional explanations. Supporters of the ancient astronaut theory believe this isn't a myth, it's a memory. That the carving represents a real being, possibly not even human, operating something far ahead of its time. The Mayans were master astronomers. They built observatories, tracked planets, and aligned temples with starlight. So, what if this carving wasn't just ceremonial? What if it was their way of preserving what they saw? Technology from above, etched forever in stone. For years, rumors have swirled about what's locked inside the Vatican's highly restricted archives. One of the most shocking claims? That an ancient manuscript, hidden for centuries, contains sketches of beings that don't look remotely human. One leaked image shows pages filled with faded script, beside it a strange drawing of a large-headed, thin-limbed figure with almond-shaped eyes. It's the classic gray alien, drawn in ink, on what looks like a centuries-old page. No one has officially confirmed the document's authenticity, the Vatican hasn't commented. But the detail of the sketch is uncanny, especially considering its supposed age. The idea that someone hundreds of years ago could have drawn something so close to modern alien reports raises serious questions. Did they make it up? Or did they see something? Some theorists believe these texts were part of a private collection, records of knowledge the church didn't want widely known. Others think the being was real, encountered during a time of exploration, and carefully documented before being locked away. Whether the manuscript is a hoax, a warning, or a clue, it fuels the belief that the Vatican may know far more about visitors from beyond than it's willing to say. Long before the great empires of Babylon and Sumer, a lesser-known culture called the Ubaid thrived in Mesopotamia over 7,000 years ago. When archaeologists uncovered burial sites in Al-Ubaid, what they found didn't look like ancient humans or gods. They found lizard-headed figurines, dozens of them, long faces, slanted eyes, and scaled skin. Some even held babies, wore helmets, or sat in positions of power. They weren't monstrous or symbolic. They were portrayed like leaders or caretakers. What's strange is that these weren't ceremonial gods, and there's no myth explaining them. The figurines came from everyday settlements mixed with tools and domestic items. Why would an ancient people create such detailed models of reptilian beings, unless they believed they were real? The Lizardmen theories exploded from there. Some say they were reptilian aliens, possibly the same type mentioned in modern encounters. Others believe they were hybrids, creatures that interacted with early humans or guided them somehow. The truth is, the Ubaid people left no written records behind. Just these figures, staring forward, their gaze frozen in clay. Did they witness something the rest of history buried, or were they trying to warn us about something we'd eventually see again? This strange humanoid figure was reportedly found deep in the mountains of South America, near an isolated cave system rarely explored by researchers. Locals claimed it had been hidden for years, sealed beneath collapsed rock. When it was recovered, the body was sent to a private laboratory for examination. Scientists noted the unusually long limbs, narrow torso, and oversized head, features not consistent with any known human or primate. The tissue was dry but preserved, and internal scans revealed a skeletal structure unlike anything in medical records. No clear explanation was given, and shortly after the study, access to the specimen was restricted. Only a few images remain, sparking questions that no one seems willing to answer. In 2017, researchers in Peru unveiled something so strange it instantly made headlines: small mummified bodies with elongated skulls, 3 long fingers on each hand, and oddly shaped rib cages. Found near the Nazca lines, those massive ancient geoglyphs only visible from the sky, the bodies looked nothing like typical humans. One of them was named Maria, and her structure baffled even experienced scientists. CT scans showed internal organs, bones, and even skin tissue. Carbon dating placed them at around 1,000 years old. Photos and X-rays were made public. Some experts said the bodies were a hoax, pieced together from animal bones. But others, including independent labs in Mexico and Russia, claimed the DNA didn't fully match humans, or any known species. The story refuses to die down. Every test seems to bring more questions than answers. If these beings are real, they change everything we know about life on Earth. Were they visitors, experiments, or an ancient species we never knew existed? The Nazca Mummies may be the closest thing the public has seen to real, physical evidence of non-human intelligence, and yet, no one seems able to explain them with certainty. Deep within the restricted archives of the Cairo Museum, rumors speak of a mummy unlike any other. Photos leaked years ago show a small, desiccated body with an abnormally large skull, slanted eye sockets, and a jaw structure that doesn't match any known human form. The skin appears leathery, the bones delicate and thin. Whispers claim it was found in a lesser-known tomb near Saqqara and quietly transported to the museum without public documentation. Some insiders believe it was labeled as a fetal anomaly to avoid attention. But those who've allegedly examined it argue otherwise. Anatomical features don't line up with fetal proportions. Even the number of vertebrae is said to differ. A few researchers who saw the mummy in person later spoke anonymously, saying it gave off the feeling that it didn't belong, almost like it was added to history, not part of it. The museum refuses to comment. The artifact isn't listed in any public collection, but the photos persist, circulating through UFO researchers and independent archaeologists. If the mummy is authentic and truly ancient, it raises a terrifying question. Were ancient Egyptians simply burying their dead, or preserving visitors from somewhere far beyond the Nile? In 1995, grainy black and white footage appeared that claimed to show the autopsy of an alien being recovered from the infamous 1947 Roswell crash. The body on the table had a large head, swollen abdomen, and long fingers. Surgeons in biohazard suits moved with careful precision, examining its organs under intense lights. The footage shocked the world. Some dismissed it immediately as a staged hoax. Others weren't so sure. The film was said to be retrieved from old military archives by a former cameraman, and for years it was debated by video experts, pathologists, and skeptics. Some found inconsistencies in the frame rate and techniques, but others pointed out anatomical details that would be difficult to fake in the 1990s, especially using only practical effects. Despite the controversy, the Roswell Autopsy remains one of the most widely discussed alien videos in history. Was it faked to mislead the public? Or was it released as controlled truth, masked in doubt? To this day, no one has definitively proven where the footage came from or how it was made. Whether real or not, it helped reignite interest in the original Roswell crash, and reminded the world that something strange really did fall from the sky in New Mexico. In the heart of Guatemala's ancient Maya site of Quirigua, stands a colossal stone carving, Stela F. Towering over 20 feet, it shows a figure with facial features that seem oddly non-human. The eyes are too large, the jawline elongated, and the headdress resembles more of a helmet than ceremonial wear. While most Mayan art is deeply symbolic, this statue looks different. The proportions, the details, it almost feels like a portrait, not a myth. Some archaeologists insist it's a stylized depiction of a ruler or deity, but others, including independent researchers, point to its stark contrast from neighboring stelae. What's even more compelling is that ancient Quirigua has multiple references to sky beings and visitors who taught through sound and light. These weren't vague ideas, they were carved in stone. Could this be a tribute to something or someone that the ancient Maya encountered? A being so unlike them that it had to be memorialized in the hardest material available? The mystery of Quirigua's alien-looking statue remains one of the most unexplained finds in Mesoamerican archaeology. Between 1952 and 1969, the U.S. Air Force ran a now declassified program called Project Blue Book. Its mission: investigate reports of unidentified flying objects. Over 12,000 cases were logged. Most were explained: weather balloons, aircraft, or illusions. But 701 cases remain unsolved. And these weren't vague sightings. Pilots, military personnel, and radar operators reported objects moving at impossible speeds, making right-angle turns and vanishing without a trace. One of the most famous cases involved multiple jet fighters scrambled to intercept a glowing object seen on radar near Washington, D.C. It outran the jets, then disappeared, only to reappear minutes later miles away. These reports were documented, filed, and quietly shelved. Even after the program ended, many involved believed it was only the public face of a much deeper operation. Some of the 701 cases contain reports of craft descending into the ocean, landing briefly on remote terrain, or hovering near nuclear facilities. The files are public now. Anyone can read them, but what they suggest is something that no government has been able to fully explain. We're being watched, and have been for a long time. In 2003, a researcher exploring a ghost town in Chile's Atacama Desert discovered something truly bizarre: a tiny mummified skeleton just over 6 inches long. Despite its size, it had a skull that appeared far too large, with an elongated cranium, slanted eye sockets, and hardened bones, features that didn't seem fetal or infant-like. The skeleton, soon nicknamed Ada, had a humanoid structure but raised immediate questions. How could a body this small be so developed? When the remains were brought to medical experts and later analyzed by geneticists at Stanford, the results were even more puzzling. The DNA showed that Ada was human, but with mutations never seen before. She had genes associated with dwarfism, scoliosis, and other skeletal disorders, but the combination was so rare that scientists couldn't say for certain what they were looking at. Some argued it was a deformed stillborn fetus. Others weren't convinced. What truly deepened the mystery was the condition of the bones. They showed signs of being 6 to 8 years old at the time of death, despite the skeleton's tiny size. How could a 6-inch being live for years? No known syndrome explains that. Some believe Ada is evidence of a failed cloning experiment. Others think she's a hybrid, part human, part something else. Even after DNA testing and X-rays, Ada's story remains unsolved. A being too small to exist, yet too real to ignore. In a remote mountain cave on the Chinese-Tibetan border, a 1938 expedition led by Professor Chi Pu-Te discovered something no one expected. Hundreds of stone discs buried among ancient graves. Each disc was about a foot across, carved with tiny spiral grooves running from the center to the edge. But these weren't decorative. Inside the grooves were microscopic symbols, too precise to be accidental, yet unlike any known language. The discs became known as the Dropa Stones, named after a local legend of small, star-born people who fell from the skies and couldn't return. According to some reports, when the symbols were analyzed decades later, they told a story of extraterrestrial travelers who crashed in the region thousands of years ago. The surviving members, the Dropa, were said to have lived peacefully with the locals before dying off. Skeptics dismiss the story as a myth. The Chinese government has never officially confirmed the discovery, and most of the original artifacts have reportedly vanished. But a few photos exist, showing the discs and their strange, worn engravings. Some independent researchers claim to have seen them in private collections. If real, the Dropa Stones could be the oldest recorded attempt at alien communication on Earth. Not carved into temples or shouted into the sky, but pressed into rock and buried, waiting for someone to understand, and maybe that someone is just now catching up. In 1996, near the Russian town of Kishtim in the Ural Mountains, a local woman named Tamara Prosverina claimed to have found a small, weak creature near a cemetery. It was barely alive, wrapped in rags, and unlike anything she had seen, it stood only about 10 inches tall, had a soft domed head, slanted eyes, a tiny mouth, and a strangely fragile body. She called it Alioanka. Locals thought it was just a malformed child, until doctors took a look. None of them could explain what it was. Shortly after the discovery, the being died. Its body was reportedly taken by authorities for examination, but that's where things get murky. Eyewitnesses claimed it was brought to a lab in Chelyabinsk, and X-rays were done. What shocked the examiners was the lack of a navel and internal organs that didn't match any known human. Then, the body vanished. Official records? Gone. Scientists who had spoken anonymously suddenly stopped talking. Some locals believe the government took over the case. Photos of the creature still circulate, and multiple witnesses confirm its existence. To this day, no one has explained what Alioanka truly was. Some claim radiation from the nearby Mayak facility caused a genetic mutation. Others believe it was something else entirely, an entity not from Earth, lost and found in the wrong place. Whatever the truth is, the Kishtim dwarf remains one of the strangest and most mysterious alien discoveries in modern Russian history. In the dry sands of Paracas, Peru, archaeologists uncovered one of the most baffling discoveries in ancient history. Over 300 elongated human skulls buried in a massive necropolis. Unlike traditional cranial deformation caused by head binding, many of these skulls showed structural features that couldn't be explained away so easily. They had 25% larger cranial volume, different bone density, and even unusual suture patterns. In short, they weren't just stretched, they were built differently. Some skulls had only one parietal plate instead of the usual two. Others had eye sockets that were larger, and holes in unexpected places. Early theories proposed ritual deformation, but forensic experts quickly pointed out that the changes weren't just cosmetic, they were anatomical. DNA tests on several samples revealed something even more strange: mitochondrial DNA that didn't match any known human lineage. Some samples showed mutations never before seen in human history. Who were these people? Were they an isolated genetic group, a lost civilization, or something else? The region itself is famous for the Nazca lines, massive ground drawings only visible from above. Could the skulls and the geoglyphs be connected? Some believe the people of Paracas had direct contact with beings from beyond Earth, or perhaps were descended from them. It looks like nothing at first, just a figure in the shadows near a hangar at the edge of the Nevada desert. But to those who studied it closely, it was anything but normal. The image appears to show something standing near an open hangar door at Area 51. Not a person, not a mannequin. Something taller, thinner, and eerily disproportionate. The photo spread like wildfire through UFO forums and underground magazines, with many claiming it was leaked by a former employee who wanted the truth out. What's chilling is how much the shape in the photo resembles classic gray aliens. Long limbs, oversized head, small frame. Skeptics said it was just light distortion or a prank. But here's the twist. Photo analysts couldn't recreate the same shape using mannequins or forced perspective. People tried. Researchers built full three-dimensional models. Nothing matched. The lighting, the shadows, the height, all of it pointed to something that didn't belong. And there's more. Several whistleblowers from that era, including military contractors, later described seeing tall, non-human entities being moved around hidden sectors of the base. One even said the hangars weren't just for storing aircraft. They were used to house biological entities of unknown origin. These weren't your typical UFO nuts. Some had top-level clearances. To this day, no one has stepped forward to claim the photo, no one has debunked it convincingly, and the object in that grainy image, tall, narrow, motionless, just stands there, halfway between light and shadow, daring the world to explain it. Most photos get dismissed quickly. This one never really went away. Some believe it's the closest we've come to photographing a real alien being. Others think it's a warning, a glimpse of what we're not supposed to see. Either way, it changed how people looked at Area 51 forever. A set of black and white photos emerged from the shadows of the Cold War. Grainy, stark, disturbing. They allegedly show Soviet medical staff dissecting a small humanoid figure. The images, tied to what's called the Sverdlovsk crash, were first leaked in a bootleg documentary that aired in the 90s, and they've been circulating ever since. In the photos, the being looks fragile with an enlarged head and long fingers. No fur, no scales, not human. Soviet uniforms, vintage surgical tools, even background details like Soviet-era lighting fixtures were verified. Skeptics argued it was a dummy, but forensic specialists pointed out realistic muscle structure beneath the skin. Even more unsettling, a few frames appear to show organ removal, organs that don't match human biology. These aren't Hollywood props. No one ever claimed ownership. No filmmakers, no pranksters, just silence. Some researchers believe the KGB recovered an actual crash in the Ural Mountains, and these photos are the only visual proof we'll ever see. In 2011, a group of researchers digging near Cusco, Peru uncovered something no one could explain. A tiny skeleton with a head too large for its body and eye sockets that took up nearly half its skull. The photos caused a stir immediately, not because it looked human but because it didn't. The head was elongated in a way that couldn't be dismissed as natural deformity. Experts tried to link it to ancient skull binding, but the shape was all wrong. The dome was too high, and the symmetry was unlike any known practice. You can see in the photos, the jawline is delicate, the bone structure thin, and yet it seems far older than it should be. Some called it a hoax, others weren't so sure. The photos spread fast among scientists and UFO communities alike. It didn't match local folklore, and no other skeleton nearby looked remotely similar. Some even said it felt staged, as if someone left it there to be found. Or maybe, someone wanted it to be seen. He didn't speak, he didn't run, he just stood there, calm, blinking slowly, as if he'd done it before. In 2011, a YouTuber uploaded what looked like classified footage of a being straight out of UFO lore. Short in height, slender build, gray skin, huge black eyes. The being quickly earned a nickname, Skinny Bob. The video was just under a minute long, but that was all it took. Viewers were immediately captivated by how realistic it looked, not just the design, but the behavior. The way the creature moved its eyes, tilted its head, even the natural way its eyelids blinked. The lighting, the camera shake, the grain of the film. Everything felt disturbingly authentic. Still frames from the video started appearing everywhere, especially one where the being looks directly into the camera. Analysts argued endlessly, CGI or real? But no creator stepped forward. No one tried to monetize it, and despite over a decade passing, it hasn't been replicated convincingly. Some believe it's a leak from a real alien interview program. Others say it's the most successful disinformation video of all time. But one thing is certain, the photos and clips of Skinny Bob still haunt people, because if it's real, it changes everything. It's one of the clearest UFO photos ever taken, and it came from a Brazilian Navy photographer. In January 1958, while stationed aboard the ship Almirante Saldanha near Trindade Island, photographer Almiro Barauna captured 4 images of a metallic disc flying over the water and disappearing behind the clouds. No blur, no glare, just a sharp, defined object in full daylight. What makes this photo so different is who backed it. The Brazilian government actually released the images. They confirmed it wasn't a hoax. The Navy verified Barana's negatives, and dozens of people on board claimed to see the object with their own eyes. Even skeptics had a hard time dismissing it. Analysts zoomed in on the images, highlighting the shadow under the craft, its tilt, and the atmospheric haze, all pointing to a real object in motion, not something added later. Newspapers worldwide published the photos, and UFO researchers still consider them among the most credible ever taken. There's no animal, balloon, or human aircraft that matches what's in that frame. Some say it was just an experimental drone, but for the late 1950s that technology would have been science fiction. This wasn't just a lucky shot, it was a documented, witnessed event, and the photos haven't aged a day. The moon has always had its mysteries, but Apollo 17 may have brought back something more than rocks. One particular frame, labeled as 17-147-22,465, shows something odd floating above the lunar surface. A small, disc-like object appears near the moon's horizon, faint but clear enough to stand out. NASA listed it as just another photo in the mission archive. But when UFO researchers went through the full catalog, this one sparked massive debate. The shape doesn't resemble space debris or lens flares. It's not a reflection. It's an object in the sky. And there's no official explanation. The photo is crisp, untouched, and part of the public domain. Some believe it's a satellite or booster stage in the distance, but orbital paths from that mission don't support it. Others think it's a craft observing the Apollo team, a watcher. Theories range from alien drones to ancient machines left behind from a previous era. What's compelling is how this one photo, hidden in plain sight, went unnoticed for decades until independent researchers spotted the anomaly. NASA never recalled or edited the image. It's still there in the archive, waiting to be seen. And every time someone brings it up, the question comes back stronger. Were we really alone up there? Or were we just being watched in silence? No flashy lights, no shaky video, just one grainy black and white frame, and it's enough to keep you staring. Taken in Nuevo Leon, Mexico in 2005, the image shows what looks like a humanoid face peering through a screen door. The shape is unmistakable. A large, bald head, oversized eyes, and a faint outline of thin shoulders. The window seems to glow slightly behind the figure, making its presence even more unsettling. Locals said the house had experienced strange electrical problems and unusual sounds in the nights leading up to the photo, but once this frame surfaced, everything changed. What makes it so compelling is the stillness. No blur, no dramatic angle, just a quiet figure watching. Experts studied the image and couldn't agree on what it captured. It wasn't a reflection, the lighting didn't support it. There were no signs of tampering or compositing. The structure of the face doesn't align with human anatomy. The eyes are too low, the head too round. Paranormal researchers suggested it may have been a reconnaissance attempt, something observing, something patient. The family reportedly moved out shortly after, refusing to speak to media. To this day, it remains one of the eeriest alien images ever caught by accident. A quiet visitor watching through the glass. In 1973, 2 men in Pascagoula, Mississippi, walked into a sheriff's office shaking uncontrollably. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker claimed they were taken aboard a craft by beings that didn't look human. The sheriff didn't believe them, until he left a tape recorder running while they thought they were alone. Instead of plotting a story, the men continued describing the encounter in terrified voices. Decades later, their detailed descriptions were turned into sketches. The beings weren't grays or anything familiar. They were tall, wrinkled, had crab-like arms, and floated without walking. The sketches, based directly on the men's testimony, are haunting. They don't look like anything from pop culture or science fiction. Both men passed lie detector tests. Their stories never changed. Hickson went public. Parker stayed silent for decades, only speaking again near the end of his life. What adds weight is how raw the drawings are. The emotion behind them, the confusion in the eyes of the creatures. The sketches feel like someone trying to remember something they wish they hadn't seen. Police files, old photographs, and these strange renderings still circulate. And the more people see them, the more they start to wonder, if they were faking it, why draw something so disturbing? It was just before recess when over 200 students and staff at Westall High School in Melbourne looked up and saw something hovering in the sky. It wasn't a balloon, it wasn't a plane, it was a metallic, saucer-shaped object, silent, fast and maneuvering in ways nothing else could. Witnesses say it dipped behind some trees then took off at an impossible angle. What makes the Westall case so powerful is the number of witnesses and the speed with which it was silenced. Within hours, government officials arrived, told students to stay quiet, and allegedly confiscated camera film. But sketches made that day still exist. So do maps of where the craft landed, and photos of the open field afterward. Disturbed, flattened, and strangely symmetrical. Many witnesses are still alive and maintain their story to this day. The incident was reported in local papers but never fully investigated. Some believe it was a secret military test, others are sure it wasn't from this world. But the most unnerving part is how quickly it was covered up. How do you get hundreds of people, children, teachers, parents, to stop talking? You don't, not really. And that's why Westall still won't fade. The evidence didn't vanish, it just went underground. This photo has baffled researchers for decades. It appears to show a high-ranking general in full uniform, calmly speaking with a gray, the classic extraterrestrial type, tall, thin, huge black eyes. No fear, no guards, just two figures in what looks like a briefing. According to whispered reports from declassified files, the meeting took place in 1957 at a secure base in Europe, after a craft landed under controlled conditions. Some say it was part of a silent agreement, technology in exchange for access. The image looks staged, but no source, no origin, no known photographer, it's just there. And that makes it even harder to dismiss. In the middle of an active conflict zone, a US military reconnaissance drone caught something that wasn't supposed to be there. The footage, leaked years later, shows a perfect metallic sphere, reflective, solid and moving with intelligence, floating silently above the war-torn streets of Mosul, Iraq. What's strange is how calm the object seems in such chaos. It hovers at a steady pace, doesn't wobble, and makes no sound. It's not a drone. It's not debris. Military analysts couldn't identify it, and when the frame was released to the public, it immediately drew comparisons to the infamous Tic Tac UFO. The Mosul Orb, as it's now called, wasn't part of any known tech in the region. The object had no wings, no rotors, no exhaust, just a smooth silver sphere moving with eerie precision. The photo, pulled directly from classified footage, shows it clearly against the desert background. No blur, no glitch. Some believe it was observing, others think it was gathering data. Whatever its mission, it wasn't hiding, and that's what makes it so unsettling. It knew it was being watched, and didn't care. Back in 1950, Nick Mariana, a baseball team manager in Great Falls, Montana, noticed a bright object darting across the sky. Instead of panicking, he grabbed his 16mm movie camera and started filming. The footage he captured is still considered one of the best early UFO videos ever taken. Later analyzed by the US Air Force and included in Project Blue Book, the frames show a disc-shaped object flying in perfect sync. No visible wings, no sound, just movement that defies known flight technology. Still images from the footage are clean and sharp. The Air Force initially tried to downplay the footage, calling it reflections from jets. But when frame-by-frame analysis was done, researchers noticed no signs of wings, fuselage, or even conventional motion blur. These weren't reflections. It was an object, real and mechanical. Mariana's camera wasn't state-of-the-art, but it didn't need to be. What he caught was enough to make even hardened skeptics stop and reconsider. And decades later, the film, and the stills pulled from it, continue to hold their ground as authentic glimpses into something we still can't explain. Taken on a quiet farm in McMinnville, Oregon, these two photos are some of the most debated in UFO history. In May 1950, Paul and Evelyn Trent spotted a disc-like object hovering in the sky near their home. Paul rushed for his camera and managed to snap two clear black and white shots before it vanished. The images are simple, a metallic object tilted slightly floating against the sky, no wires, no blur, no visible tampering, and yet, incredibly convincing. Experts from multiple fields studied the negatives and found no signs of manipulation. Even the shadows and lighting matched the time of day and weather that day. Life magazine published them, the Air Force investigated them, and decades later, no one has successfully debunked them. Some skeptics claimed it was a hubcap thrown into the air, but physics says otherwise. The object in the photo is too large, too distant, and too steady to be anything tossed by hand. These weren't taken with today's high-speed cameras or editing software, just a simple roll of film. And yet what it captured has never been explained. The McMinnville photos still hold up, not just because of what's in them, but because of everything they ruled out. One of the strangest and most controversial alien abduction stories came from the heart of New York City. In 1989, multiple witnesses claimed to have seen a woman being levitated from an apartment window on the Lower East Side and into a waiting craft hovering above the Brooklyn Bridge. No flashing lights, no Hollywood drama, just a silent, surreal event in the middle of a sleeping city. Investigative journalist Bud Hopkins later interviewed a woman who said she was that abductee. Her story matched the sightings: a blinding white light, temporary paralysis, tall beings with black eyes. But it's the drawings and diagrams from witness accounts that make this case so chilling. Simple sketches show the craft hanging silently in the air, and the woman floating upward as if gravity had been switched off. No photos of the event exist, but illustrations based on testimony remain, and they all match. Multiple independent witnesses, same night, same time, no connection to each other, no motive to lie. If the event really happened, it would mean that non-human entities conducted an operation directly above one of the busiest cities on Earth, and got away with it. Over the span of several months in late 1989 and early 1990, Belgium experienced a wave of UFO sightings that stunned the world, not just because of what people saw, but because of what radar confirmed. Civilians and police officers reported large, silent, triangular craft hovering low over rooftops and fields. Not lights in the sky, actual structures. Black triangles with bright lights underneath, moving in ways no aircraft could. The Belgian Air Force scrambled F-16s to intercept. Pilots locked onto unknown targets, only to have them vanish or perform impossible maneuvers, accelerating thousands of miles per hour in seconds, then stopping dead mid-air. What makes this case unique is the photo, one of the few clear images of a triangular UFO ever taken. It's a grainy shot, but the craft is unmistakable. Bright lights, symmetry, massive size. This wasn't some lone witness in the woods. Thousands saw it, radar confirmed it, and the military admitted it. To this day, there's no official explanation. No aircraft known in that era, or now, can do what was recorded over Belgian skies. If anything came close to open disclosure, this was it. In 2004, U.S. Navy pilots flying off the USS Nimitz encountered an object that challenged everything we thought we knew about physics. A smooth, white, tic-tac-shaped UFO appeared on their radar, moving with such precision and speed that no human-made aircraft could even come close. The footage captured by the pilots shows the object performing maneuvers that defied the laws of gravity, dropping from 80,000 feet to sea level in seconds, then stopping dead in mid-air, only to accelerate again at mind-boggling speeds. It responded to the pilots' every move, evading them with ease. What makes this encounter so chilling is that the object seemed to slip through the boundaries of our reality. It existed in a space where the rules of physics were either bent or entirely different. Was it from another world, or something much stranger? Perhaps a glimpse into a parallel dimension. It almost felt as if it was showing us how fragile our perception of reality is, revealing that maybe, just maybe, we don't exist the way we think we do. In this moment, we're left to question, if this object can exist, what else can we not see? And what does it say about the world we think we know? In the summer of 1952, the heart of American power, Washington, D.C., became the stage for one of the most famous UFO events in history. Over several nights in July, strange glowing objects appeared in the skies above the Capitol, not one or two, but dozens. Pilots, radar operators and journalists all reported the same thing: bright discs maneuvering in formation, then vanishing in an instant. Civilian and military radar picked them up, confirming they weren't just visual illusions. The U.S. Air Force scrambled jets, but each time they got close, the objects would disappear at impossible speeds. Photos taken from the ground show glowing orbs above the Capitol dome, silent, untouchable. Newspapers ran with it. Headlines screamed, "Saucers swarm over Capitol." It wasn't a rumor. It wasn't just eyewitnesses. It was radar, military response, visual proof, all at once. The government blamed temperature inversions, but no one bought it. Whatever those objects were, they made their presence known right above the most secure airspace in the country, and no one could stop them. Just a few months after Pearl Harbor, Los Angeles was on edge. So when a large object appeared in the night sky on February 25, 1942, The city erupted. Air raid sirens screamed. Searchlights lit up the sky. Anti-aircraft guns opened fire. The event lasted for hours, and over 1,400 shells were fired. But nothing fell. Nothing exploded. And the object? It didn't move. A photo from that night, published in the Los Angeles Times, shows beams converging on a solid shape above the city. That image is now one of the most iconic in UFO history. Military officials first said it was a false alarm, then blamed weather balloons. But the witnesses, and the damage from falling shells, tell a different story. The object seemed to be immune to gunfire. It hovered slowly, deliberately, as if observing the panic below. Whatever it wasn't Japanese, and it wasn't American. The Battle of Los Angeles left no wreckage, just questions and a haunting image that continues to baffle historians and UFO researchers to this day. This wasn't filmed by an amateur or leaked by a civilian. It came from inside Nellis Air Force Range, a high-security military testing site in Nevada not far from Area 51. In 1994, operators monitoring remote drone cameras captured a bizarre, fast-moving object weaving through restricted airspace. The object was small, irregular in shape, and moved like nothing they'd seen before. It accelerated, stopped, changed direction instantly, all without wings or visible propulsion. The footage was leaked to the public years later, and still frames show a blurry but defined craft moving in an erratic path across desert terrain. Analysts tried to match it with known drones, weather probes, even optical illusions. Nothing fit. What makes this case stand out is the reaction of the personnel in the audio. They're clearly confused, even alarmed. These weren't UFO believers. They were trained military operators, and they had no clue what they were watching. The Nellis footage became one of the most cited visual proofs in the 90s. A rare case where military eyes and cameras caught something truly unexplainable in their own backyard. That's about it. Do you believe in aliens now? Write in the comments. For more useful information, watch other videos.